Hello, so today we're going to have a look at FS Realistic, but there's no point showing you it straight away without having a quick fly around in a plane to see how a plane behaves without it versus how a plane behaves with it. So we are on the ground at Booker Airfield in a little Cessna 152 and we're going to go and do a quick circuit of the airfield. The weather's quite horrendous, but that's good because that will play into the hands of FS Realistic. So we've got a pretty wicked crosswind. There's about a 15 knot wind across the airfield. So it's very near the limits that a Cessna 152 can deal with. So we're just going to roll out onto the runway. Okay, so we'll go full throttle. Try to hold the centre line. We'll have to fight the aeroplane a little bit. As you can see, the wind's trying to get underneath the wing, so we're getting airborne as soon as we can. It's incredibly dangerous, you can see. So let's sit up in the seat. And we're away. Okay, flaps up. So we will climb out to about, I haven't actually calibrated the altimeter, I'll do that first. We'll climb out to about 1,000 feet, which is about 700, 800 feet over the ground here. We're slowly turning left when we shouldn't be, so we'll try and straighten that back up. Okay, so we're at 1,000 feet now, so we'll stop that vertical speed. Was that lightning in the air? Clouds all lit up. Or was that just an update in the weather? I think the weather might be changing around us. You can see the aeroplane being thrown all over the place. So we're turning back to 60 degrees. You can see we are really being thrown around. So I'm going to go back for looking at our direction over the ground. You can see we're coming downwind with the big crosswind. You can actually see that we're kind of going that way and pointing that way. So, but this is interesting, and this will play into our hands in a moment. So we'll stay at 1,000 feet. We'll sit back down so we can see out of the side window as we turn. Although it's not really going to help us. What we really need to do is sit over the other side so we can see around. So we'll come off the throttle a bit. So we're just turning back towards the airfield. There's the runway. So that crosswind has pushed us quite a long way, even with our crabbing across the wind. As soon as we turned with the wind, we got pushed an awful long way. So I'm at about 80% throttle, look, and I mean we can go for 100% throttle, but we are really fighting into the wind. Okay, so the thing you will notice here is we are stable within the aeroplane, and that's what FS Realistic is really going to change remarkably. Also, you'll notice we haven't got much in the way of noise going on with the wind clattering us around, and that's going to be changed as well. So let me just focus on getting this back onto the ground. And we're down. Okay, so I'll just roll to a stop on the runway. And now we're going to launch FS Realistic.
FS Realistic connected.
Okay, so it is now running, okay? And you will notice immediately the cockpit has started moving. So let's start plane up. So the airframe is shaking for a start. And we're rattling as we go over the ground. So let's get into the air. So the immediate thing you'll notice is that our head is moving around more, and we can also hear more wind noise. You notice immediately, look, that the cockpit is not sitting still anymore. And I don't have head tracking or anything. This is just, it's simulating your head being thrown around by the G-forces. So it makes it that much more immersive if you're not using VR, for example. Okay, let's keep the speed up a fair amount and do just quite a high bank turn back towards the airfield. Let's see if we can turn before we get too far. So if we fly back towards the runway, by the time we get there, we'll be parallel with it. You can see us going sideways, look. So let's drop the flaps and start to turn into the wind. You can see we've actually fallen behind. But the sense of movement in the cockpit is dramatically increased. So once we've done this, we'll go and have a look inside. And see what difference it makes. Sit up. See the shudder there as we touch the ground? That was quite cool. So let's see what happens when we go onto the grass now. So put the flaps up so we don't try and lift off. Oh, I've actually accidentally stopped the engine. It's my fault. But you can see the body of the aeroplane vibrating with the engine. So we're getting a lot more noise going on as well as we go over the grass, and a lot more movement of the plane juddering around. It's quite unnerving actually. Sit up. We're going to park at the other end of the flight line. There's a bulldog. Okay, let's put the parking brake on. Right, let's go and have a look now. Let's just cut the engine. Okay, so the engine will come to a halt. We can turn the magnetos off. Okay, let's go and have a look at FS Realistic. Unfortunately, it's going to look very, very small on your screen. I don't know if this has a high resolution option. Let's have a look. Zoom in, set. Oh, that's for the key, sorry. Does it have, I don't think it has a setting for a high resolution screen. But essentially, it gives you a whole raft of things you can do. Hang on, let me have a look. So if I go for accessibility in Windows, accessibility, I wonder if it's magnifier. There we go. So if I, haha, there we go. So now I can show you it. So it gives you a whole range of different things that you can configure. So we could have random airport GA noises happening. We could have the speed brake lever may be auto-deployed in some aircraft. This effect adds realistic sound to it. Blade slapping for helicopters. Brakes on some aircraft, when brakes are applied, a slight squealing sound may occur. So you'll notice some of these things are on and some of them are off. It is related to profiles which are stored for each aircraft, and it's pre-configured out of the box for most aircraft types, so that you can see found 23 shared profiles for this aircraft. So we can see clear prop. Pilots dutifully calls out clear prop before engine start. So should we try that one out? We can try random. Let's try clear prop 1. I presume this will flick through them. Okay. So preview.
Clear prop.
So you can choose all these different ones. We could try a female voice. Presumably, if we say female and male, so we'll turn that one up and that one down.
Clear prop. Clear prop. Clear prop.
So presumably, now I've done that, so if I say done, and we haven't got clear prop on, now we have. So if we then, within the simulator, go and turn the prop over.
Clear prop.
So as soon as we went to put the magnetos on,
Clear prop.
the voice shouted it. So you can switch on and off all of these different things that make different things happen. So cockpit ambience. So it's got random here. We could have that one, and we'll try that one, see what it sounds like. So it's just the electrical hum in the background, basically. So it's just switches and clicks happening around you. So if you were in a big jet, then you might, want to do that. So we'll just say random. Crash screaming. When you're about to crash and you know it, then you'll scream. Engine starts, so you get the movement and the sound about engine start. You get the vibrations that you can switch on and off. You get flap drag, so you hear the drag caused by extending the flaps. Flap levers, a more realistic sound for the flap lever. Flap stress, when overspeeding VFE, the aeroplane will start to vibrate. Float splash, when taking off or landing, feel the splash of the water. G-forces, adding movement to the pilot's body caused by G-forces. So we didn't actually try that. If we'd thrown the aeroplane around, we would have seen that a bit more. Gear drag, ground effect, ground roll. So there's all sorts of things you can configure about the aeroplane. Aeroplane airflow we saw. So you get different sounds for the wind going past the airplane. So obviously these can be configured, and different settings have been pre-configured for different aircraft types. But there's tons of stuff you can do with FS Realistic, and the end result is you end up with an aeroplane that feels just a lot more real. So I'm just going to go and turn that magnifier off. So hopefully that gives you some idea what it does. we'll take it up for one last look around, and we'll try throwing the plane around this time. So we'll hopefully miss the bulldog as we go past. And the helicopter. Actually, let's do a takeoff on the grass. Let's just go straight onto the grass. Now we know the wind is coming from the left, so we're going to use no flaps for the takeoff and just go for speed. So what we're hoping to do is get enough speed up to then throw the aeroplane around and see what those G-forces look like in terms of throwing us around in the cockpit. So you'll get a proper sense of what this does. I've got live weather on, by the way. It's just pure luck that the weather was atrocious, which has actually helped us to see us being thrown around. Okay, so if we... Yeah, so you can see the plane is actually all over the place in the cockpit. So if we... What about with your wing? Just avoid the ground here a little bit. We were going a bit close to those trees. Please don't fly an aeroplane like this. It's not advisable. Right, there's the airfield. I'm just going to come straight back round and put it back on the runway, and then we'll call it a day. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what FS Realistic is all about. So you can totally configure it to have all these call-outs and sounds and vibrations, and it makes the aeroplane feel much more like it's alive. I really am having to manhandle it against the wind. Not the weather to be doing this, but it's without this it wouldn't have been as much fun to see us being thrown around and to see the aeroplane moving.
Well done. Smooth landing.
So there you go. That is what FS Realistic is all about. So I'm going to leave it there on the runway. You don't want to watch me taxi back a second time. But it's only, I think I paid just over £20 for it, which is about $23, $24, something like that. So yes, FS Realistic. It runs in the background, you just leave it running. And obviously it has profiles for different airplanes, and you can have all sorts of fun with it. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you again soon. Okay.